there is a plan to overthrow what most people in this country want.
We don't feel safe when it comes to opening up businesses because there's a possibility of a threat or whatever in our own country.
There's a law from whenever stating that the Reserve Bank can just freeze your bank account and take your money. Many of these guys, with the spaza shops, are guys that are coming in from the likes of Pakistan and Somalia and places like that. The Muslims want South Africa to be Islamic. And unless you vote for an out-and-out Christian, this is not going to change.
This is the Political Show.
Hey, and welcome to the Political Show right here on Active FM, where radio has never been better. I'm your girl, Cynthia, but you can call me Gix, and with me in studio we have
Gavin Inston.
Pastor Gavin Insland, right here on the Political Show, where Christ politics is
Hot politics.
Hot politics, and this week's hot politics, we looked at it last week, but now we are continuing this week in terms of the March and March, June 30, and South Africa is having a very heated conversation about immigration, the protests that are happening in terms of the borders, who's responsible for fixing the crisis. But while one conversation is happening loudly in public, like I mentioned, there's protests, there's marches. On Sunday last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa came out and said a speech that a lot of people were not happy about. So there's political statements being made by different politicians as well. There is another conversation that is happening quietly through government institutions. There are things that are happening behind the scenes that is not being spoken about in media, but affects every single South African. If you own a bank account, if you have money invested in the bank, if you're receiving foreign currency, and it affects you. And we are seeing the question around in terms of the power the institutions like the Reserve Bank has with regards the money of South Africans. Pascal, do you want to give a more brief explanation?
As you've been mentioning, there's a great divide that's being put between a lot of, let's say, people living in South Africa of foreign origin, but at the same time, they're not listening to, first of all, what the real complaints are of the people. And many of the complaints of the South African people are very similar to the complaints of those who've been sitting for 20 or 30 years in the country trying to get themselves documented and have had no or absolutely no cooperation from Home Affairs. And all of us know people, that have been in that situation. And in addition to that, while all of this arguing about March on March is going on, we have a situation where people's money is just being stolen, and it's not even theft according to the law, because there's a law from whenever stating that the Reserve Bank can just freeze your bank account and take your money. And that's if you've had any foreign currency type transactions that have happened in your account. You've received any funds from people in other countries. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's happening, with the March and March, what the conceptions are, and as I said last week, June 30 will come and June 30 will go, and I think the organizers of March and March have been saying there's nothing special is going to happen. They've just given the government a deadline, and then they're going to continue to ramp up the pressure against the government through things like stayaways and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to chat about today.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting show, as always, right here on the Political Show, where Christ politics is
Hot politics.
Hot politics. Now, here's the deal with the March and March. There's two perspectives here that I think are trying to get their points across, but the main issue lies with the middle person, which is the government. And both are looking at the government from two different perspectives. So you've got, let's start, for instance, with the South African perspective. And what's this, gatherings like the March and March, the groups like March and March, who are basically asking the question to the government: who is entering the country, who has legal documents, and who is enforcing immigration laws? And why does it seem like the system is unable to control this situation? And when you listen to the conversations that they have in public forums and stuff like that, obviously one of the biggest things that has put a lot of pressure in South Africa is the unemployment rate, the pressure on jobs, the pressure on informal businesses, which we've spoken about a lot in our show, where it's not you hardly find, I mean, if you just go to any spaza shop now, you hardly find a South African running a spaza shop. And we've spoken about how there've been hijackings happening in terms of these. There was a story of a South African man who was kidnapped, and he was threatened in terms of running his spaza shop. And then public services as well, crime and border control, all of these things. And the question that they're asking is, if the country has immigration laws, why does it feel like these laws are not working? So it's a very critical point. It's a very critical question, and it's a genuine question that is being asked from the people who reside within the country, to say that as people who are living in the country, we can't make a living for ourselves. We don't feel safe when it comes to opening up businesses because there's a possibility of a threat or whatever in our own country, and the government is not doing anything about it. And then you've got the perspective of the foreigner, who is also asking the government similar questions in terms of the fact that we are coming into the country legally. We start off, maybe I'll give different scenarios where you have people who start off with legal documents, and then when it's time to renew their documents, you have all of these things that are just blocking, all of these obstacles that block people from getting renewed visas, renewed permits, and now they're stuck here with expired permits, and there's nothing they can do about it, because when you go to the Home Affairs is not willing to help, or the Home Affairs makes it difficult, or they say that your file is lost. And so there are those people who have come in legally, or there are those people who were brought here by parents or who were born here, but again, the system doesn't allow them. So they've gone through the whole schooling system, from preschool all the way till matric, some of them even having degrees, going to government, to public universities and stuff like that. And they've gone through this whole process. They've gotten jobs and stuff like that. However, the system does not allow them, or does not call them citizens. And again, they're now stuck with the situation where they are dealing with stuff through the Home Affairs, and the system making it impossible for them to get proper documentation. And they're now sitting there saying that, okay, we understand what March and March is saying, but there are people out there who also are not hearing this issue. So where do we find the middle ground? Government, what are you doing? And how do we solve this issue? Pascal, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, obviously, a lot of the people who've ended up in trouble, though, you've also got to look at their parents.
Yeah.
Because 20 years ago, if a foreigner came to South Africa, it was a lot easier for them to get papers, and they didn't have to go through the refugee program. So I think, within foreign communities, there also needs to be discussion around, with your parents. Why didn't they sort things out? Why were they just open to just sort of leave it? But there's a much bigger question. You spoke about the spaza shops. And the reality is, many of these guys, with the spaza shops, are guys that are coming in from the likes of Pakistan and Somalia and places like that. And they're coming in with the help of Muslim, Islamic aid organizations like Gift of the Giver and stuff like that. And these guys, not only are they getting like visas, they're getting IDs, all right, which means that they can vote. And why is that happening? Because this is what many South Africans are complaining about. You go to these spaza shops where, for example, these Somalis are, and 5 years ago they weren't in the country. Yet they've got ID books. They've got South African ID books. Now, on top of that, the Special Investigation Unit, known as the SIU here in South Africa, has come out and spoken about the fact that Home Affairs basically, has a criminal syndicate running within it, which is producing false papers, for all sorts of people. And now what's happening is you get this whole narrative of a battle between foreigners and South Africans. But the reality is, number one, the South African government is not doing their job. Number two, there is a plan to overthrow what most people in this country want.
Yeah.
And 86% of people in South Africa, according to the last census, identify themselves as Christian. All right, I want you to think about that stat, 86%. Now, Muslims are something like 1.6%, according to the last census.
Yeah.
The Muslims want South Africa to be Islamic. You don't have to go search far. You can go do a cursory search on the internet. If you go search on YouTube, you will find plenty of evidence where things are said by people in speeches and things like that about that. And that's why these guys are getting in, because the Muslims want to change the numbers. And Gigs, I don't know, I've got a video. I don't know if we should show it.
Okay.
But it's one that I received, from a pastor friend from Soweto of mine.
Yeah.
It's many things that happen because of it. Yes. Am I right? Absolutely. And so now, what next you want us to do for the party challenge?
Yeah. So firstly, let me greet you all. Assalamu alaikum. It's very important that we understand that we have to bring as many as people as possible from Pakistan here. I was just speaking to Amit Sab earlier, and I'm telling him how important is it to bring more Pakistanis here. Because 15,000 Jews have come from Israel into Cape Town, and they are trained military-wise to come here into South Africa, and we also have to plan. Yeah. It's important for us to stand together, unite together, and ensure that we are also strong. So alhamdulillah, I'm so proud and to be here. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I studied in Pakistan also, so I'm very happy to be here today and to be with you all today. And I'm hoping that with the coming elections that we...
Now this is something that was circulated, earlier this year, and if you speak to a lot of pastors in South Africa, they know about this, and we know that there is a major plan afoot, in terms of things like this, whereby there's actually a plan to Islamicize South Africa, and what these guys are talking about is bringing in guys with military training and stuff. And not only that, also talking about bringing them in and getting them registered to vote.
Now here's the thing.
to vote in South Africa's elections. So
the next elections,
this video is from 2026.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Like January.
Early this year.
Yes.
The next elections in South Africa is on the 4th of November, 2026. The registration period is between the 20th and the 21st of June, 2026. At what point, if they are bringing in people from early this year, all right? If they're bringing people in from early this year, at what point or how are they processing things that they get IDs? Because if an immigrant is coming, you don't get a green ID book until you become a citizen, and you don't become a citizen in 6 months. Or am I thinking of the laws wrong?
No, you're thinking about Congolese. Congolese don't get citizenship in 6 months.
No, according to the law, you can't get citizenship
but
in 6 months.
the law must say Congolese, because what I've experienced is that Congolese can't get citizenship in 6 months.
So that is my question.
But if they come from Pakistan and Gift of the Givers is helping them,
how are you getting citizen? And that's the frustration of the South African people. That's the frustration of the people that are connected to groups like March and March, to say that there is so much illegal work that is happening in the background. Because again, was it last year or also earlier this year, where the plane full of Palestinians this year were brought in? Nobody is asking the question, what happened to them? Where are they?
Well,
Where
I'm
were
asking,
they placed?
so I wouldn't say nobody.
Okay, we are asking the question. Where were they placed?
When I go to the barber, they're there.
Exactly. And
Palestinian cuts my hair, guys.
how did they get
Free Palestine.
documents as well? So
Free Palestine in Joburg, South Africa. And let them help vote Al Jamaa into power.
do you understand? So that is something that we need to actually think about. Every time I'm watching news from the States, I'm starting to worry. Well, not worried, but I've actually included America in my prayer, like now, like seriously, because
you need to pray for them.
because what's this? You're seeing how Islam is taking over, like seriously taking over. I mean, you have the New York governor, and then there was that guy in New Jersey, mayor, sorry,
Yeah.
and then there's the guy in New Jersey
Yes.
as well, who is
And Dearborn, Michigan,
exactly,
which
and
now has a Muslim majority population.
exactly, and then there was it the mayor of New York as well, who was speaking about the fact that they will take what's this, businesses or housing from people, and they will take it as in and give it over to other people.
Yes.
And in my mind, I'm thinking this is Islam. They will take it from the Christian. They'll take it from the Christians. They'll take it from anyone who's not willing to convert to Islam, and they will give it to the Muslim people. I mean, we saw this in the UK.
Yes.
And you're seeing it happening in the
with
States.
Sadiq Khan.
Exactly.
But if you listen to Mamdani now, he couches it sort of in almost socialistic, communistic rhetoric.
Exactly, yes.
So the socialists and the communists think he's on their side. But in the meantime, no, he actually means Islam.
Mm.
But not only that, Gig, so while all of this discussion is going on, and while the people, and what's happening now is that division has been caused amongst the people on the ground.
Yes.
And the government has allowed sufficient numbers of foreigners to become illegal.
Mm.
Now, partially that's through crossing the river, but partially that's because of, I think, ineptitude that's by design within Home Affairs, in terms of immigration officials and, all of that sort of stuff. And I mean, one of the things that March and March complains about, which many of the foreigners living in South Africa also complain about, is only 800 immigration officials across the whole of South Africa.
Can you imagine 800 in
Yeah.
a nation of over 60 million people?
Yeah, and people are saying there's probably 120 million people living in this country. So, it's probably double the population. So, when you look at that, the foreigners who are trying to sort out their documentation are sitting with the same complaint.
Exactly. Yeah.
And on top of that, what are people not talking about? A huge thing has transpired during May 2026. And there's actually a video, I've seen a couple of videos about this, but one in particular from a guy named Rian Roo, the Rian Roo show, as he says. In May 2026, the South African Reserve Bank, now listen to this, permanently seized approximately 35 million rand from 7 private organizations in 9 days. I've read every Gazette document. So that's the Saving Government Gazette. Not one of them cites a single reason for the forfeiture. One of those organizations is Prague, Praag, led by Dan Root. His case got media coverage because he's willing to talk about it. The other 6, CMX Best, Codewiz IT Services, Nora Trading, Prime Horizon Co., New Dawn Exporters, Port Trading, have received no public attention at all. Their money is gone and the public does not know why. The law that made all of this possible is Regulation 22B of the Exchange Control Regulations, on the books since 1961. So this is on the books since before South Africa became a republic. Okay, since before South Africa originally officially left the Commonwealth. Under this regulation, the SARB, which is Sovereign Reserve Bank, that's the equivalent in America for anyone who might be watching it from America to your Fed. The SARB can permanently forfeit your money to the National Reserve Fund based on suspicion alone, no criminal charge, no court order, no state reasons. And you have 90 days to challenge it in court at your own expense against an institution that has previously deployed 19 senior advocates in equivalent litigation. I also took note of the roles, now listen to this, of the banks. ABSA, Nedbank, Standard Bank and Capitec all cooperated with these forfeiture processes affecting their own customers. Ruud says that Absa approved every transaction he ever made, and this is basically, your foreign currency transactions. You know, and if that is true, which institution has failed him? Now, what I want to say is we also spoke about Pala Pala a few weeks ago, with Cyril Ramaphosa, and we took a different take on it from the perspective, why is it illegal for someone to stash cash in their couch? And then people say because you're breaking foreign currency regulations. And do you know that under the foreign currency regulations, the Reserve Bank can say, we suspect that this money you receive from overseas, is illegal for whatever reason. And they don't need to tell you, they don't need to tell anyone else. And the only time you're going to find out is if you at your own expense take them to court. Now, there's a guy by the name of Magnus Haystack. He's quite a famous, South African economic and investment commentator in South Africa. And this happened to him a few years ago. And when this happened to him, he actually took the Reserve Bank to court. Do you know that he won the case?
Sure.
Okay. In the High Court, he won the case.
Yeah.
Now, a High Court, it's 50,000 Rand a day. That's an inordinate amount of money for us South Africans. That's just for your attorney. All right. And the attorney in the High Court in South Africa is called an advocate. Now, the Reserve Bank then appealed the finding of the High Court. So it went to the appeals court. And when he pitched up at the appeals court, the Reserve Bank pitched up there with 19 advocates. So, in other words, you're fighting an organization with unlimited resources.
Literally.
And you cannot get your money back.
Yeah.
Why is every South African not talking about this? So you're not allowed to hold cash. It's evil to hold cash. People talk like it's wrong to hold cash. People talk like you're a criminal if you hold cash. But at the same time, are other South Africans who, what happened with this Dan Ritt, he's overseas with his wife. And I think he was in Chicago or somewhere. And he was wanting to hire hire a car. So, and when he went to the car hire, the transaction where he tried to pay for the car hire failed. Eventually, he managed to get them to charge some standard bank account that he had, but the Sovereign Reserve Bank had frozen his account, and then they whipped over 4 million Rand out of his account just like that. And all they need to do they send you 2 emails, and then they publish a notice in the government gazette. That's all they have to do. And they can take your money from you.
That's crazy.
Now, that's number one. Number two, Cyril is saying you must wait, with all of this illegal immigration and stuff going on. And you must wait for the law enforcement people who've not done their job to do their job. On top of that, these guys are saying that you as a South African citizen cannot stop someone and demand their papers. When meantime, we have an entire section under the Criminal Procedure Act which entitles you to do a citizen's arrest. Let me tell you, I don't know how many other places it's like this, but in South Africa, if you have the money, you can go to court and you can effect a private prosecution of someone. I don't know if you know that, Gigs.
I don't know. I heard it for the first time when we were doing our research for this show.
Yeah. So if you take the case against Julius Malema, when he fired rounds, that was Afi for him, and they brought a private prosecution to bear because the NPA refused to prosecute. So the way the NPA with cases like that, the way that they hold things back is that they don't make a decision whether to prosecute or not. And then what happens is AfriForum will then take them to court to force them to make a decision. So Julius Malema's was a private prosecution. So if you've got the money and you're willing to foot the bill and to pay the advocate or the lawyer if it's in a magistrate's court, then you have the legal right to effect a private prosecution. So Cyril Ramaphosa says, no, you can't do this, but I can effect a citizen's arrest against you for committing a crime, for any crime. So he's lying. So we've got all of these lies and innuendos, and the fact of the matter is that they're actually causing a tremendous amount of division amongst people
Yeah.
by the way that they're conducting themselves. And I just want to say, Geeks, from myself as a South African to you, who would call yourself a foreign South African, all right, most South Africans, want this to be sorted out properly,
Yeah.
and not with what's happened to so many people. And
Yeah.
I mean, how many kids do we have in this country that have been rendered stateless by the inaction of government?
There's a lot of them that have been rendered stateless. And
Yeah.
what's this? I mean, it's a big issue. I think, yes, there are those people who take stuff overboard, and I think we've seen it with some of the riots where people have been hurt in the name of, and I don't believe that those people have the same mindset that the March and March group have in terms of wanting this issue solved, and things like that. But at the same time as well, and yes, we also have a lot of foreigners who have come here illegally. When the last elections happened, we basically saw do you even use the word disaster? That is happening at the border. How simple it is for people to just come into the country. I mean, we even had a show where we spoke about how there are people who live in Zimbabwe but work in South Africa. That's the border situation in the country at the moment. I know that statement doesn't make sense. How do they live in Zimbabwe but work in South Africa? That is what is happening. So yes, there's all of these situations, but it all boils down to the country's law. Firstly, we've spoken about how there's just so many things, so much law, and it's not that simple for the general South African to understand, and things like that. It's not in favor of the general South African. And what they do know, what the people in the country know, whether South African or foreigner, that itself is not working. And the people cannot trust, law enforcement. Obviously, there's the whole thing with the bribes. There's the whole thing with whether or not you fall in the 1%, and things like that. And I think from those that are South African, their biggest frustration, especially with the president's speech last Sunday, was that he didn't seem like he was on the side of South Africans. And how do you, as the president of a country...
Was he on your side?
No.
I mean...
No.
He said, we're going to take away your green ID books and we're going to force you to have a digital ID so that we can track you wherever you go.
That's not people
to fix a problem that we caused without actually fixing the things that we did to cause you the problem.
Exactly. You are adding in new laws, new systems, when the system that you currently have is not working already. And that's the frustration that people have, to say that you're going on this platform, you're speaking, but you're not speaking to the actual issue that is happening, and you're not standing for your people.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest frustration that people had with the speech. And I think those are my final thoughts. Pascal, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, the thing is, I keep saying it. I mean, we've mentioned things like the climate change bill, many of these emissions bills which render like our power utility Eskom to be illegal, also Cecil, and because of all of these things now, we used to hear around Joburg and what's called the Highveld, the inland areas, we used to have 90% of our fuel was provided from an organization called Cecil, which is an organization that was built under the apartheid regime to create petrol out of, petrol for Americans, gas out of coal. And I mean, 90% of our fuel came from Cecil. Even when I was a young adult, like in the 1980s and 1990s, 90% of our petrol came from Cecil. And now it's less than 30%. And the government has destroyed our ability to refine oil. They really have. Now we have to, instead of importing oil and having oil refineries and producing our own oil out of coal, we now have to import petrol. So when you look at all of these things, there's huge questions that the politicians in South Africa have to answer. And I mean, now that the DA is in charge, for example, of agriculture under John Steenhuisen, we have the worst foot and mouth outbreak in the country's history.
Yep.
You know, so these politicians and the top business people and the elites of South Africa are continuously creating crises.
Yeah.
You really need to think about that. And for South Africans, you really need to think about who you're going to vote for. I'm telling you now, you need to ask whatever party you vote for in the local government elections, are they Christian? Because 86% of the people in South Africa are Christians. If they're not, don't vote for them. The Bible says that when the righteous rule, the people flourish.
Yeah.
But when the wicked rule, the people suffer. And we've seen a lot of suffering. And then what do? They handle things in such a way so as to cause, in this instance, I mean, before it was black versus white. Now, foreigner versus South African. But they're looking for something where they can get us to fight each other and we take our eyes off them.
Yeah.
And also, please note the influence that Islam has over South Africa. Please note the influence it has over our businesses. Take the banks. We spoke about the banks with the Reserve Bank. Look how many of our top providing Sharia compliant products. Why are all the banks providing Sharia compliant products? Why are all the foodstuffs in Checkers and Pick and Pay and all of the major shopping retailers? Why are they marked halal for 1.6% of the population? Why are you forced to contribute to the growth of Islam financially? By buying a product where part of the price of that product goes towards certifying it halal. Start asking yourself why. And unless you vote for an out-and-out Christian, this is not going to change. I promise you now it's not going to change. You need to look at their values and what do they stand for. Do they stand for the Bible? Do they stand for the Lord Jesus Christ? If they don't, you claim you're Christian, don't vote for them. Vote your values. Vote your faith. Vote for people who claim the Lord Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior.
Amen. Amen. This has been an amazing show. As always, right here on The Political Show. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm your girl Cynthia, but you know you can call me Gix. And with me in studio, we've had
Gavin Insland.
Pastor Gavin Insland, right here on The Political Show, where Christ politics is
Hot politics.
Hot politics
Is the political show.